You're listening to the Friends Talking Nerdy Podcast Network.
Friends Talking Nerdy. If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I want to talk to you. Friends Talking Nerdy.
Hey everybody, welcome to a special bonus episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. This is going to be a solo one by me, and it will not take that long. Not going to be the length of one of our regular episodes here. As we've stated in some of our previous episodes, Professor Aubrey is currently out on vacation at Burning Man, so the professor and I went and recorded a good month's worth of episodes for you all, but with some news that has happened recently in the world of professional wrestling. I just wanted to take a minute to kind of talk about that, because if you have professional wrestling fans in your life right now, they are quite sad. Why is that, you may ask? Well, on Wednesday, we found out that hardcore legend, middle-aged and crazy, one of the greatest professional wrestlers that has ever existed, Mr. Terry Funk, passed away at the age of 79. Which is sad news, but, I think I've stated before in general, that like when it comes to certain people that have passed away, if you've reached a certain age, then it's sad, but it's just like you lived your life, and Terry Funk lived his life, and there's a lot of great stories out there about him. By all accounts, he was one of the nicest guys that you would encounter in the wrestling business. You don't hear anybody really coming out and saying anything bad about Terry Funk. Now, if you've seen some of the crazy stuff he did in the ring during his time, yeah, I don't know if I'd maybe want to make him mad, but, we're talking about the guy who's done some wacky stuff in Japan and in ECW as well. But as far as what he brought to professional wrestling, like, he brought the realism to it. What do I mean by that? Professional wrestling is a story. It's a fictionalized world. I mean, think of it like sports through the lens of an action movie. It's a heightened reality. And the beauty of people like Terry Funk is that they seem so real that it allows you to suspend your disbelief much more than it would be with like a wrestling garbage man or something like that, which is not knocking, a character like Duke the Dumpster Drosy, who I was just referring to there. But I mean, I think you get my point, and I think Duke would get my point as well. I'm not insulting him, but Terry felt real. He felt like if you met with him in real life and pissed him off, he would treat you like he treated his opponents in the ring. I think back, like, one of the first times I was really introduced with him was in '89 when he briefly came back to WCW and had his legendary feud with Ric Flair. Started at the end of the trilogy of amazing matches that Ric Flair had with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Terry Funk ended up challenging him for the title. Ric Flair says, "You're not in the top 10, you hung out in Hollywood." And then the middle-aged and crazy Terry Funk attacks him, pile drives him through a table, and then they go on to have one hell of an I Quit match at Clash of the Champions 9, which, if you haven't seen the Ric Flair trilogy match with Ricky Steamboat or his match against Terry Funk at Clash of the Champions, the I Quit match, you'd have to see those. That's mandatory watching, I think, if you're a wrestling fan, so it was sad news, but he deserves his rest. And, if that had been the only sad news this week, I don't know if we'd be here today. But the next day, I was just doing my thing and ended up coming across somebody on Instagram. I had a screenshot from a Triple H tweet, and it said, "Just receive a call from WWE Hall of Famer Mike Rotunda." Mike Rotunda, who, if you're only a fan of WWE, Mike Rotunda played IRS, or Erwin R. Shyster, a wrestling accountant. It was real, folks. But just received a call from WWE Hall of Famer Mike Rotunda, who informed us of the tragic news that our WWE family member for life, Windham Rotunda, also known as Bray Wyatt, unexpectedly passed away earlier today. Our thoughts are with his family, and we ask that everyone respect their privacy at this time. Bray Wyatt has died. He was 36 years old. He was the father of 4 children, 2 children with his first wife and 2 younger children with his second wife, JoJo Offerman, who was someone that he met while working in the WWE. She was a ring announcer and trained to be a wrestler as well. And this one hurt. It hurt bad. Like, I read that news and I teared up and just spent the night crying. It was awful. Just nobody in the prime of their life, especially when all the gears are running and they're able to live their dreams the way they were, nobody should have to die that young. Like the older I get, like I'm 46 right now, 10 years older than he was. And he seemed, it's hard to explain, folks, but this was a tough one, and the wrestling world has definitely lost a creative genius. Now, for folks that may not be aware of him, if you're aware of similar characters in the past, like The Undertaker, you kind of get the idea of what Bray Wyatt was all about. He was kind of a great bad guy. Like in the world of professional wrestling, you can have a bad guy who does quote unquote supernatural things, even though that supernatural stuff is all magic and all that stuff. Magic in a sense of like David Copperfield, if you get my drift. But he brought the core of what made The Undertaker work and brought it into the 21st century. Like, he understood psychology. He understood how to get the crowds, either with him or against him at the snap of a finger. And just what a creative mind. Like, just this past year, last year, in 2021, during the height of the pandemic, he was one of the surprising people that the WWE released. But in late 2022, he was hired back. This was shortly after Vince McMahon briefly left the company with his quote-unquote retirement. Look how that turned out. But he came back. They had a very interesting campaign to bring him back, in terms of teasing a QR code that would pop up on Monday Night Raw that would lead people to clues. But when he came back, just singing, he's got the whole world in his hands, and it shows like people dressed up as characters from like the Firefly Fun House, for instance, because at one point he played a demented children's host, and it worked. This gutted me. It gutted me, and if you have someone who's a fan of professional wrestling, I'm sure they're probably in the same spot I am right now. All you can say at this point in time is just be there for your family and don't miss opportunities. You never know when the time is going to come. Word did come out as to the cause of death. Sean Ross Sapp from Fightful.com announced that earlier this year, Bray Wyatt contracted COVID, and the COVID exacerbated a heart condition that he had. And it turned out that the day he died, he had a heart attack. He was close to coming back. Doctors thought he actually might have a chance to get back in the ring, but sadly that was not the case. Windham Rotunda, who was the real name behind Bray Wyatt, is a third-generation wrestler. His grandfather was Blackjack Mulligan, part of the infamous Blackjack tag team. Just as 2 Texan guys show up in the ring with black hats and they start beating the hell out of people. His father, like I mentioned, Mike Rotunda, was a legend in the NWA and WCW, with like the Varsity Club, with Kevin Sullivan and all that, in the WWE. He did have some success in the 80s as a tag team, the U.S. Express, with Barry Windham. In fact, it was Barry Windham who got Windham Rotunda his first name. There was that, but then of course later he came back as IRS, Erwin R. Shyster, and now Bray Wyatt, of course. Bray does have a brother who wrestles in WWE as Bo Dallas. All I can say now is I'm I don't believe in a higher being or anything like that, but I do believe, even if it's a placebo effect, I guess, sending out good thoughts is not a bad thing at all, folks. And this is just absolutely gutting news. If you have a subscription to Peacock, the WWE sub-channel has a playlist of some of Bray Wyatt's best performances. If you get a chance, watch the Firefly Fun House match from the doomed WrestleMania that happened in 2020, just as the pandemic started. That was one of the only matches that was able to be interesting without a crowd. Bray Wyatt will be missed. He was gone way too soon. When you're a wrestling fan, you get emotionally attached to these people. I mean, that's what the wrestlers want, because if you're emotionally attached to them, you're going to follow them along with your journey and, surprise, surprise, spend money along the way. But we as fans know this, we accept this, and we realize that that's part of the art of what they do. And yes, professional wrestling is an art, damn it. It's art at its most base. I'll give you that. It's not. They're not putting on Shakespeare or Macbeth or anything like that. But it takes a true artist to be able to get the reactions from people that professional wrestlers are expected to do, and especially when you have a character like Bray Wyatt was in the ring. To be able to creep people out, to be able to scare them, but still have them coming back. He was a once in a lifetime performer, folks. Take some time out of your day to put on some professional wrestling. The WWE Network will also have some Terry Funk matches as well. You can watch Terry Funk in Roadhouse. He was in that Patrick Swayze classic as one of the bouncers. And be there for your loved ones. You never know when it's going to end. Join us this Monday for a new episode. Thank you for listening to me right now. And if you happen to like what you're hearing, follow us, subscribe to us, tell all your friends. We'd love to grow our audience. So thank you all for listening.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy on iTunes, the Google Play Music Store, as well as Spotify. Remember to support Friends Talking Nerdy on Patreon. Goodbye, darling.